Everyone is drawn to the crystal-clear water of Jacob's Well, yet few realize the danger waiting beneath its calm surface. Just below the swimmer's feet hides a flooded maze that has swallowed people alive and refused to give them back.
Jacob's Well, a popular swimming hole near Wimberley, will remain closed to swimmers for the foreseeable future.
Then, divers finally reach the bottom, cameras rolling into the dark. And what those cameras discovered is beyond horrifying. Just wait until you hear how one trapped diver gulped down water on purpose, trying to die. So what was really hiding at the bottom of Jacob's Well? The beautiful trap. This is the most inviting water you will ever see. Jacob's Well, on a hot afternoon near the small town of Wimberley, holds a steady 68 degrees year-round, clear as glass, glowing a blue-green that belongs on a postcard. Kids leap from the limestone ledges. Tourists float above a dark circular opening, roughly 12 feet across, peering down into a beauty that barely looks real. That surface beauty is exactly what makes the place so deceiving. The opening you float above is not the bottom of a pond. It is the mouth of a flooded cave system that drops straight into the Edwards Trinity Aquifer, one of the most important underground water sources in all of central Texas. The spring even feeds Cypress Creek, which carries water through the whole region. In the most literal sense, this gorgeous swimming hole doubles as a lifeline. For a casual swimmer, the fun ends about 30 feet down, where the first chamber opens wide and bright. Most people touch that level, feel the cool pull of the deep, and kick happily back to the sun. They never see what waits below them. To them, it is a summer playground, and that innocent picture is exactly where the real story begins. A maze built to confuse. Below that welcoming first room, Jacob's Well changes character completely. The cave keeps descending through a series of at least 4 known chambers, each one deeper, tighter, and darker than the last. Divers connect these rooms through narrow, twisting passages, and over the years they gave those passages honest, unsettling names. One squeeze became the birth canal. Another stretch earned the name the coffin. Those names are warnings, not jokes. Some passages narrow so far that a diver has to slip the tank off and push it ahead just to fit through. The first chamber sits around 30 feet down. The second drops to roughly 50. The third reaches near 80 feet, and that is where the trouble truly starts. The greatest danger here is almost invisible. The floor of every chamber holds a thick blanket of fine limestone silt, soft as powder, resting undisturbed for thousands of years. One careless fin kick lifts it, and in a single heartbeat the clear water turns into a blinding white cloud. Up and down become impossible to tell apart, and the exit simply disappears. A diver who panics breathes faster, burns through air, and the clock starts running out. The cave needs no teeth. The silt, the dark, and the squeezing stone do all the work, and the count of people lost here has grown to at least 8, and by some estimates as many as a dozen. The night the well took 2. To understand why divers speak about this place in hushed voices, go back to September 1979. 2 young men, Kent Mopin and Mark Brashear, set out one evening to do what most divers were too afraid to try. They wanted to push past the 3rd chamber and reach the elusive 4th. Cave diving in that era ran on confidence and ambition. Modern safety habits barely existed yet. Mopin was experienced and sure of himself. Brashear was younger, eager, and happy to follow a diver he admired. They carried limited lighting and ran no safety line into the cave, trusting their own skill to bring them home. A 3rd diver named Joe stayed near the entrance to the 4th chamber and watched the 2 of them push their steel tanks ahead into the narrow opening. Mopin slipped into the shadow first. Brashear followed right behind. Joe waved his dive light to signal them, banged his knife against his tank, and waited for a reply that never came. Then, The water around him bloomed into a thick cloud of silt. Low on air and alone, Joe finally turned back to save himself. When he broke the surface, he already knew the truth in his gut. His friends were not coming up, and a desperate rescue was about to begin. Buried alive in the dark. The call went out that same night, and one name rose to the top of the list. Don Dibble, a former Navy diver and the most respected rescuer in the region, arrived ready to bring the lost men home. He waited for daylight, then descended toward the passage where the two had vanished. What he found was a wall of loose, shifting gravel. Every time he pulled rocks away, more slid down to take their place, like digging a hole in dry sand underwater. Dibble pushed his head and shoulders into the narrow tube, his air gauge reading just minutes of work left. Then, the cave struck. The gravel collapsed around him in an instant, pinning his arms to his sides and burying him in total darkness. He could not signal. He could not move. Burning through his last air, Dibble reached a moment of terrible calm and accepted the end. He even swallowed water, trying to hurry it. Then his body convulsed in one wild burst of survival instinct, and that thrashing loosened the gravel just enough. A light appeared in the murk. His partner reached him with a spare regulator and pressed it into his mouth. Dibble took a breath and lived. As he rose, the swallowed air expanded violently inside him, and he reached the surface in agony. His stomach wall ruptured. He barely survived. Brasher's body was later carried out by the current in 1981, yet Mopin would stay in that fourth chamber for years to come. The warning nobody heeded. Don Dibble walked away from that recovery a changed man. He tried to seal the deadly passage himself, lowering cement and rebar to cover the small hole that led to the fourth chamber, leaving bars in the middle so water could still flow. Within months, divers had pulled the barrier apart and left a plastic slate behind with a chilling line scratched into it, "You can't keep us out." That defiance set the stage for fresh tragedy. By November 1983, two of Dibble's own advanced students, Richard Patton and Clark McConnell, decided the Forbidden Cave sounded like the perfect adventure. They were skilled open water divers. Yet cave diving is a separate world with its own brutal rules, and they entered without a guideline to mark the way back. They reached the fourth chamber and turned to head home, sharing breath after one diver lost his air. With incredible patience, they passed a single regulator back and forth, squeezing through the dark together. Then, near the first chamber, they swam up toward what looked like an exit and struck solid rock. They had entered a false chimney, a dead-end tunnel that mimics the route to the surface. Their shared tank rang hollow and empty. In a final act of courage, McConnell pushed off and swam roughly 75 feet on one held breath, bursting to the surface alive. Patton never made it out. Don Dibble, called once again, recovered the body of his own student the next morning, and the well's dark reputation grew heavier still, sending eyes where people die. After decades of loss, the answer became painfully clear. Sending more people into the deepest reaches on a whim was simply too dangerous. The margins were too thin, and even the finest cave divers could be overwhelmed by the silt, the squeezes, and the consuming dark. If anyone was ever going to document the bottom honestly, it would take a coordinated, elite effort with the best technology available. So a serious expedition came together, built around technical cave divers certified to the highest levels, supported by specialists who study water systems and underwater cave mapping. They brought equipment that represented the cutting edge of the field, rebreathers that recycle a diver's own breath to stretch dive time far beyond ordinary scuba, redundant lighting, because down here, light means survival, sonar mapping able to build a three-dimensional model of the passages in real time, and high-definition cameras mounted on rigs that could film in spaces too tight for a diver to even turn around. They spent days on the surface before a single diver entered the water, measuring the flow, sampling the water, and studying every dive log ever recorded from the well. On those pages, they noticed something strange. Trained professionals, People who write in cold, factual terms kept describing the passage beyond the fourth chamber with words like uncomfortable and wrongly shaped. One veteran with hundreds of dives wrote that the cave gave him a deep, irrational sense that it did not want him there. Those notes were exactly why the team decided to push further than anyone before them, and on the day of the dive, they finally did. What the cameras found. The first chambers went as the records promised. The third revealed an early clue the team noted, but could not yet explain. Long, horizontal scarring around the walls, like a ring carved by water far older than any human visit. Then came the dreaded constriction past the fourth chamber, the squeeze that had turned back every diver before them. Using their rebreathers and propulsion gear, they forced through it, barely. One member later called it the closest he had ever come to quitting a dive in his life. On the far side, the cave opened into a massive black void, far larger than any room above it, the ceiling arching dozens of feet overhead into darkness their lights could not fill. The floor was not stone. It was deep, soft sediment, swallowing their beams and dropping further than any instrument could measure. And as the cameras swept slowly across that floor, the team went silent. Bones. Bones, resting in the dark, and not just one set. The specialist made a careful assessment on video that the remains belonged to multiple separate people, mineralized with age, far older than any modern diver. Then came the detail that turned the silence into dread. The bodies had not been scattered by the current. They lay clustered together, grouped, arranged, as if they had been placed there. And 8 feet up the far wall, the cameras caught what no one was ready to see: markings carved into the stone. Deliberate, repeated, organized into patterns no natural process could ever make. The archaeologist filmed them without speaking for minutes on end. The only sound on the footage was the mechanical rhythm of his own breathing. Floating in front of those marks, with the dead resting behind him in a chamber that had been sealed in blackness for thousands of years, he finally said it, low and quiet. Someone knew this place. And it is still open. Sit with what those words mean. Long before any diver, long before the town, long before anyone alive, people came to the bottom of Jacob's Well in the dark. They left their dead on the floor. They carved marks into the wall. And then the water rose and sealed it all away, until a camera finally dragged it back into the light. We still cannot say what they were trying to tell us, and that not knowing is the part that lingers. The expedition also confirmed the cold physical reason this place has kept for so long. Deep beneath the bone chamber, instruments detected a hidden second network of passages pushing water sideways under enormous pressure. That is the source of the eerie current reversals divers reported for decades. The unseen force that pulls a swimmer down when every instinct screams to go up. The well does not simply hold its victims. Under the right conditions, it reaches up and takes them. Now here is the thought that should stop you cold. Jacob's Well is still open. On any warm weekend, families gather on those limestone ledges. Children leap laughing into that perfect blue circle and float on the surface, smiling up at the sun. They have no idea that directly beneath their kicking feet lies a flooded throat of stone that has swallowed at least 8 people. A current that has dragged trained divers to their death, and a black chamber full of human remains that nobody can reach. The most beautiful swimming hole in Texas sits on top of a grave, and every summer, more people line up to jump in. Jacob's Well looks like a peaceful summer escape, yet beneath its surface lies a story of loss, courage, and secrets that refuse to stay buried. If this one stayed with you, hit like, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.